Hit record. Welcome everyone to Simple Nutrition System Week 3, where we are going to go over everything you need to continue to build these healthy habits. Because remember, this is not just about uh, creating success for the short term or losing a couple pounds. This is about building habit upon habit upon habit. And now you've been with me for the past 2 solid weeks. We're going to review everything that we want to build this around. I've added some additional meal plans I'll be uploading. But by the end of the 6-week program, you're going to have the habits in place if you've been executing. And if you haven't, we're going to review every single week so you make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do. Okay? So let's look over our foundational habits. First and foremost, like we talked about in week 1, that we really want to start with what is the purpose? Like, what is the why behind what you're doing? What do you want to achieve? Okay? And why do you want to achieve it? What is the goal? If you want to lose 20 pounds, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? What is that going to deliver to your life? How's that going to impact your relationships, your self-image, your confidence? Because I think we all agree that as we become more confident, it's going to make us more, better communicators in our personal lives, better communicators in our professional lives, and it's going to, increase our job opportunities, better our relationships, help us be more influential to those that we care about and that we love, right? So that's just one example of really where it starts, because health and fitness, it's really the centerpiece of whatever you're doing in life. If your mission in life is to serve others through, charity, or maybe you want to start a business, or you're a teacher, like a lot of our ladies on here, you can serve professionally. The healthier and happier you are with yourself, with your body, right, with your health. And if you want to be a good mother, if you want to be a good spouse, right, like to be the best you can be, you have to take care of yourself, right? It's not about making ourselves the number one priority. It's about making ourselves a priority, because I think we all agree that when we put ourselves high up in priorities, everything else improves, even though we're the easiest thing to put ourselves last. Okay, so purpose, how and know why, because it's easy to cheat on your diet and cheat on and eat crap when we shouldn't be eating it. But if we choose to remind ourselves really what the motivation is, then it becomes a lot more profound as to why we choose the right over the wrong. Okay, so that is really the first assignment. That was from week 1. I'm going to reiterate that every single week because it's the foundation to our house. Okay, and next, have you selected your meals for the week? Okay, and I'll reshare with everyone on here the first 2 weeks what that should look like. Okay, now I'm recommending picking 1 to 2 primary protein meals. It doesn't matter if you're vegan, vegetarian, or you're carnivore, or sorry, a meat eater. It really comes down to just the preparation. That's the habit we're trying to build and focus on. There's a lot of ways to get high protein dishes in, even if you don't eat meat. And that's totally cool, and I respect that, okay? And I'm giving you a ton of options. I've added some more, so I'll be posting that once I put this video up as well, if you are not watching this live. So your 1 to 2 primary proteins, and then your vegetable dishes to supplement, and then your starches as needed, okay? Just a short review. Have you planned out your shop and prep times, okay? Are those working for you? If you say, I am going to shop on Monday at 7 a.m., bright and early when the grocery store is empty, and then I'm going to prep all my meals Monday evening from 7 to 10 p.m. Is that working for you? If it's not, we need to find another time, okay? Because those principles do not change. It's just like exercise. You still need to show up for your workout. If your schedule is conflicting with when you intend to exercise, you just need to find another time. The same principle applies to us selecting our meals and preparing them in advance. Okay, and I'll give you a ton of options, which, like I said, I'll reshare with you. All right. So, last but not least, taking care of yourself, managing your state. Okay, we'll talk about this later tonight. But really, the more stressed you are, the harder all this is going to be. Okay, the less we're not going to feel as good. We're going to be less motivated to plan and prepare our meals and to make healthy selections. So managing your stress levels, especially in today's society, with how demanding life is today between work and kids and family and social events and commitments, it's a lot. Okay, but we all have the same opportunity to be successful with it. Okay. And most importantly, this is going to be part of your weekly assignment this week, and your weekly challenge is to share photos from your actions. When you have a great workout at the gym, take a picture and post in our accountability group. Okay. When you make a healthy meal, take a picture of it and share it. Right. You're going to value what you're doing more psychologically. You're going to value your efforts more. You're going to make better choices overall. You're going to be an inspiration for others. When others reach out to you and say, "Hey, Charity, that meal looked really good. How do you make that?" You're going to be more motivated to hold yourself accountable because other people are looking up to you. You become an example for others, right? So, going off last week, we focused not only on our foundational habits, but also how did we steer the path when it comes to social situations? Were we successful? If not, why? Okay, I gave you some great tips. Selecting the venue. If you're having a dinner with friends, where do you go to eat? Take ownership of that. Make the decision. Okay, you can steer the course of your dinner and your environment if you're just proactive and take the initiative. Or did you eat before you went out? Did you choose a drink? If so, why? Why did you not opt out of drinking? Okay, because I find when I drink, I'm far more likely to eat crap when I don't intend to. Okay, the two go hand in hand. So those are just some simple examples that of things that it goes back to that not know it's not a matter of knowing what to do, it's actually doing it. Okay, so did we follow through in the real world? It's easy when it's in our kitchen, right? But what about when we're out there day to day, friends, family, social situations, professional situations? Are we proactive? Because I can guarantee you we can make every excuse in the world. Oh, well, it was a set menu. Oh, well, yada yada. Look, we can be successful in any manner. There's someone out there that has an extreme social life that is being successful in eating healthy and staying on a simple plan day in, day out. And they're enjoying all the benefits and the fruits of their labor. Okay? Because it is effort, it does take energy. It's simple to be healthy, to stay lean, to lose body fat, but it's not easy. Okay? Last but not least, everyone says, what's the next best secret? There are no secrets. We're building habit upon habit. Like we're going to focus on a lesson tonight and a challenge at the end. But realistically, do not go seeking more information. Okay, more recipes, that's one thing. But realistically, I'm giving you every tool you need to be successful. It comes down to you executing. I'm seeing a lot of activity in our group, and that's great. But if you want to be successful, become more proactive. You get out of this what you put in. I'm not feeding you. I'm not prepping the meals for you. I'm leading you and guiding you and leading by example through the process. But it really comes down to you executing and doing your part. You just got to follow the steps just like any process in life. So this week's lesson, what we're going to focus on is how to build extra accountability into your life. And there's a couple different ways to do this, and I'm going to share things that have worked for me, things that have worked for others, but it really comes down to execution at the end of the day. Because I could give you 1,000 different things that'll work. You just got to pick one or two and run the plan. All right. One of my members was in this morning, and I believe she might actually be on this live with me, and she, brought up the idea of posting what we're eating, and it sounds kind of crazy, but realistically, like I said earlier, if you consistently post a healthy meal, you're going to value your efforts more that you put into preparing that. You're going to be proud of the fact that you were proactive, and you're going to instill the habit. What's going to reinforce it is when others are commenting, "Hey, share the recipe. How was it? Did it taste great? Wow, you're so inspiring." Those little things will snowball with your efforts, and I can promise you it's going to create this magical motivation where it goes hand in hand with you doing the work and feeling fulfilled from the work. Okay? And only good things follow that. Right? If you value your efforts in prepping healthy foods more and more and more, the habit is going to continue. Okay? Next one, I'm going to share the perfect portions without having to measure calories. I'm going to teach you how to hit your macro goals, how to really dial in on how many calories, how much fat, how much carbs, how much protein. Not this week, that's coming later. Okay, remember foundational habits. What we're going to do now that we have the habit of preparation in place, we're going to focus on how we can simply balance out our plates. Okay, and remind me if I forget for any reason, The images I selected are actually all meat or chicken, fish dishes. So I will mention how my vegan friends and vegetarian friends on the call, how you can still be successful with the same principles. And last but not least, we're going to talk about creating the perfect fat burning storm. So, how do we optimize our hormones, our energy levels, our body's ability to tap into fat stores for fuel? So, here is what I find to creating accountability. And I've done this myself, and I challenge a lot of our members to do the same when they're struggling. So, first and foremost is sharing your journey with others. And there's two simple ways you can do this. What I recommend is leveraging social media because it's such an active environment. Okay, so we look at this two ways. First, you have your personal Facebook, right? So all your friends, your family, you know, your colleagues, your network. I get a lot of activity when I post pictures of my Brussels sprouts addiction or just my healthy meals. And that honestly, it makes me feel good knowing that I am practicing what I preach with all the healthy talk on nutrition. I'm actually living it, but also it does inspire others. I'll go out and run into one of my friends at the shopping mall or at a restaurant. They'll say, "Hey, I remember all those Brussels sprouts pictures you've been putting up this week." But honestly, I'll have people reach out to me a week or two later and they're like, "John, I'm really struggling with my food." They open up to me. They say, "Where do I even start?" And me sharing what works for me, which are these habits I'm sharing with you, really makes me feel good, but also makes me want to be better. That makes me want to follow through and be congruent with what I'm sharing, what I'm saying, what I'm doing. It dissipates any conflict that I have and makes me want to choose the higher path and planning my meals, executing and sharing. That becomes a habit that builds and builds and builds. Okay. If you don't feel comfortable putting it out there to your personal network for whatever reason, I challenge you to do it. But that's why we also have our private Facebook group. So there's other members in our gym that are working towards the same exact goal with the same exact habits, and that in itself is very strong and powerful. Okay, so share your daily wins, your daily successes, your actions in that group. Take a picture with your phone and put it in the group. Take a picture of your post workout. You just finished a workout. Big thumbs up with Coach John and put it in the group. Maybe you went for a walk and you manage your stress. Take a picture and put in the group. Every time that you act on one of your habits that I assign to you, from your food to your activity, take it and put it into the group. You'd be surprised how it will make you feel. We do everything for a feeling, right? We don't do a lot. We don't eat healthy out of logic. We know we need to eat healthy out of logic. We're torn out of emotion. Okay, so when we override the emotion and use it to our advantage, by becoming an example for ourselves, for others, it goes a long way. Okay, so that's how you create internal motivation by leveraging yourself, right? Another way is building off of this, hold someone else accountable to the same process. When we lift others up, we tend to rise ourselves, right? So what I recommend to everyone is that you grab a buddy. You grab a buddy that you do workouts at the same time with in our group strength training or our personal training. You prep meals together. You swap recipes. There's 1,000 different ways to do this, but just picking someone and connecting with them really goes strong. Ladies, if you're at my gym and you're listening to this, you know how powerful the community is. Being a part of that is something very special. You must use it. As great as it is to be your coach and one of your coaches from our team, as great as it is to support you through the process and lead this group, it really, really, really adds a whole nother level and element when you have other people that you are leading the example. You're holding each other accountable. I can promise you that both of you will be far more successful should you choose to do that for one another. That will go a long way. Okay, I promise that. All right. So finding a buddy and sticking with them. All right. Here's why it works so well. It sounds crazy, but How many times have we found that we tend to avoid letting others down before we actually let ourselves down, right? Think about that. How many times do you find that we avoid letting others down before we let ourselves down? It's easy for us to say, "Oh yeah, I'll go to the gym," and in our minds, and then just say, "Oh, I'm kind of tired." But when someone else is waiting at the gym expecting us, like one of your coaches, which is why the appointment system works so well, it builds such a higher level of commitment because we don't want to let that person down because we'll feel far worse if we let that person down than if we let ourselves down. Now, it's something we can work on by developing our self-worth, our self-image, our self-respect, our self-love. But in the meantime, and in the long term, leverage that gift that you're given. Okay, your gift is that you don't want to let other people down. Use that to your advantage. You're going to become better through the process. If you always put you know 2 feet in the water and commit to someone else through the process, whether that be a meal swap, whether that be showing up together for a workout, whether that be connecting every Sunday on a phone call, that's going to reinforce the habit. See how all these little ideas compound upon each other? It all starts with the plan and preparation and the purpose. Okay, these are just the ways to add extra layers to really carry you through the process. So let's talk next. Now that the first thing I wanted to focus on was the creating that accountability. I gave you two main ways to do it and ways that I've done it myself. Right. The next thing is let's start balancing out our meals. All right. So a real simple way I want you to look at this, whether you're vegan, vegetarian, or meat eater, doesn't matter. Okay. A 3-part plate process. So 1/3 to about a quarter of your plate should come from a protein source, right? If we're talking, I've broken this down in my meal plans into multiple ways to get your protein in, whether we're talking chicken, fish, beef sources, or I gave you some high protein, non-meat, non-fish meals as well. Okay, 25 to 35% of your plate. All right, 50% of your plate should come from an assortment of vegetables. Be very liberal with how many vegetables you're having. Okay, fill half your plate. They're so calorically low in density and high in nutrients, you really can't go wrong unless you're drowning them in butter and adding cream on top of them for some crazy reason. Now, in my plan, I will also recommend that you get 1 to 2 meals with starches added in. This can be brown rice, quinoa, pasta should you choose. Okay, there's a lot of different ways to do this. Legumes. Okay, a lot of different ways to do this. That should be a quarter of your plate if you're choosing to have starches in this meal. There's some other examples. Like I said, instead, if you're vegetarian or vegan, use one of the meals I give as an example and sub out the meat and plug in your vegan or vegetarian protein source. Okay, pretty simple, right? And remember, I always say aim for 2 to 3 primary meals like this. Okay, just an example, if we're talking about the protein source, whatever that is, to get enough protein, about 30 to 40 grams, which is what you should be aiming for per primary meal. It should be, if you open up your hand, everyone open up their hand right now. Look at your hand. Okay, look at your palm. That's probably about 3 to 4 ounces, depending on the size of your hand, of protein, whether we're talking about vegan, vegetarian, or meat, chicken, fish. Okay, now expand that a little, maybe an inch or two out in lengthwise, and going halfway down your fingers from the base of your hands. That's probably right about what you're going to look for protein quantity. Okay, for your protein focused part of your meal, that's how much you want. About 4 to 6 ounces. Higher on the higher end would be ideal. If you're just measuring it out on your hands, that's what you're aiming for. Okay. Next, let's talk about how to create fat loss. So there's 3 primary things to create the fat burning storm. First is creating a deficit. Second is stabilizing your blood sugar. Third is depleting glycogen, or the gas tank, as I like to call it. Bonus tips, won't go into these too much. Consistent hydration is only going to help your fat loss efforts. And also sleep. We actually oxidize fat at an extremely high rate when we're sleeping. We're not burning a lot of energy, but a lot of the energy we're burning is actually coming from body fat, believe it or not. Interesting, right? So here's your three options for creating deficit. And I'm going to recommend one of them, which is option number 3. So let's look at option number 1. You can starve yourself, right? We've all done this. We just eat next to nothing. Do we lose scale weight? Yes, absolutely. Who wouldn't lose scale weight and water weight from just not eating much? If you cut down to 6, 7, 800 calories a day, that energy deficit you're creating is going to go from somewhere. Most of the time, it's coming from water, which is why you see the scale move so fast, and also muscle tissue. Okay, would you agree that if you lose muscle tissue, your metabolic engine or your metabolism is going to slow down? Yes, it will. I can promise you it will. You will burn less energy. You will lose lean muscle tissue. You will become less healthy. Do not do option number 1. All right. Option number 2, no exercise, just eating right, and just eating less than we need. I don't recommend this either because it may not as drastically impact our metabolism, but I can promise you, let's say you diet or eat slightly less than you need, quality or not quality foods for an extended period of time, you're going to lose muscle tissue. When you lose muscle tissue, you lose metabolic rate and your engine burns slower. This is a unsustainable effort. Okay. Option number 3, my favorite because it works: exercise more consistently, 3 to 5 times per week, and then with that extra burn, let's say our metabolism is 1,500 calories a day. We burn 500 calories on average extra per day from exercise without increasing our metabolism. And so we're burning 2,000 calories a day. Okay, that would be how much, just in this example, if you wanted to maintain your weight, would be 2,000 calories, right? So we might subtract 3 to 500. So you're looking at enjoying anywhere from 1,500 to 1,800 calories. Pretty awesome, right? We want to burn more and then chip away from that to create the deficit with quality foods. This is the best way to go because in the long run, if you follow option number 3, if you're doing the right type of training like you will with us, your metabolism will increase over time. So in order to maintain your weight, you're going to go from 2,000 calories, let's say, to 2,500 calories. Sounds a lot better than starving yourself with 800 calories a day, doesn't it? So once you create a deficit with option number 3, ideally, stabilize your blood sugar. Blood sugar is impacted every time we consume food. Okay, it is inevitable. It's a natural process of breaking down the food into the form of glucose in our bloodstream, right? And I'm not going to get into the science with it, but just be aware that carbohydrate sources are going to be more readily broken down in the blood sugar. All right. So that's partly why a lower carbohydrate intake diet works so well. All right, that's one reason. But when we have sugar in our diet, it spikes our blood sugar. Okay, that's why quality nutrition is so important. It will keep our blood sugar in check. Your body's focus and purpose is survival, not aesthetics. So, would you agree that if your blood sugar is way out of whack, that its number one priority is to survive and not lose fat? I hope you said number 1 because when our blood sugar is way out of whack, number 1 priority is to stabilize blood sugar. Fat oxidation or burning fat for fuel gets put on the back burner. Okay? So you can see how if you're constantly screwing with your blood sugar, it's not only terrible for your health, but also it's delaying our body's ability to efficiently tap into fat. Okay? So stabilizing your blood sugar is huge, and it starts with quality nutrition. The second thing that we do together on a regular basis, if you train in our gym, is intense exercise. Okay? Regular, intense exercise. It goes a long, long way. All right? It naturally stabilizes your blood sugar. If you know anyone that's diabetic, what does a doctor say aside from nutrition and diet? What else do they need to do? They need to exercise. The reason being is that intense activity improves insulin sensitivity or our body's ability to stabilize blood sugar efficiently. Okay? So that's why exercise is so important, right? Last but not least, stress management. What are you doing every day to manage your stress levels? If you're not giving yourself time, and one of the many examples I give you, from meditation to journaling to prayer, should you, if you are religious or have a spiritual belief, right? Giving yourself time and making that commitment to yourself, 10 to 20 minutes per day, will help you naturally manage your stress level. All right. See how all this ties together: quality nutrition, regular exercise, and stress management. Last but not least, we're not going to dig in too much. The last piece that you need is you need to empty the fuel tank and this happens from intense exercise. Glycogen, not whatever I spelled wrong there. It even told me. Glycogen, as I say at the bottom, glycogen usage is from intense exercise. It's like the gas tank that helps us fuel our intense workouts. So the more intense the workout, we're burning glycogen. That's a good thing. There's a lot of health benefits to this, but more importantly, if you're trying to tap into body fat, this is one of the keys to creating the perfect storm for fat loss. Okay, so intense exercise. Push yourself when you're training with us. So, do we notice the trends? Intense exercise, stress management, quality nutrition, but most importantly, keeping all these things stupid simple is going to serve us in health, in life, and in fat loss. Okay? And the underlying principle, doesn't matter if we're talking about, meditation, doesn't matter if we're talking about nutrition, it doesn't matter if we're talking about exercise, it all comes down to planning and preparation. And folks, I can promise you, when you make all of this a priority, every other area of your life is going to improve. When you manage your time better around planning your meals, around planning your workouts, around managing your mental state, you're going to see that same habit apply to managing your kid's schedule, to managing your professional schedule, managing your personal schedule and your responsibilities and commitments. Does that make sense? See how it all ties together? When we invest effort and focus into how we look and feel, inside, outside, physically, emotionally, mentally, those principles and habits will apply to every other area of our lives. And I can promise you, when you put the focus here, everything else will follow. Okay? So, you're probably saying, I know this, Coach John. I know how to eat healthy. I need to exercise. I know I need to plan. But the question is, and I'll highlight this, are you doing it? If not, why? Why are you not committed? This is not a matter of knowing what to do. It's actually doing the work. I don't care how much you know. I don't care if you know more about metabolic processes and fat oxidation than me. If you're not doing it, it doesn't matter, right? There's plenty of super intelligent, super wealthy, successful people that hire nutritionists. If it was a matter of knowing what to do, there wouldn't be nearly as much of a need for commercial gyms, for businesses like mine, for nutritionists, because there's more than enough information out there. There's more enough recipes out there. Okay? It's actually doing it. Get around the same people that are working towards similar goals. Get active, which is why I preach our online support group so much, and take action. Focus on a few things and execute. It's that simple. So, bonus tip: when you manage and own stress and don't let it own you, you hormonally are more stable. You control your habits and emotions, which affects your thoughts and decisions and actions or inactions, and you live a higher quality life. Would you agree with me that all those will transcend into personal relationships, financial management, time management, task management, professional work performance? You betcha. Okay? When you put the focus where it needs to be, which is your health and well being, everything else will follow. So meditate, practice time management, exercise, sleep, and eat quality foods. Okay? This is the root of lack of action, overwhelm, lack of preparation. If you fail to prepare, friends, prepare to fail. We have repeated ourselves on the foundational habits every single week of this program, and there's a reason why. All right? When you execute on them, magical things happen and great things follow. When you don't, you get stressed out, you get overwhelmed, you feel like a failure, and you feel like there's something wrong with you and you become the victim. Okay? But when you take your life proactively and you own it and you take full responsibility and stop making excuses, start following the plan, everything else great. Well, not good, everything else great will follow. Okay? So, your weekly challenge. You're committed to this. I expect you to create accountability in more than one way. Share what your intention is. Whoops, that's spelled wrong. Share what your intention and plan is in our group. Share what you do daily. That means posting when you work out, checking in at the gym, posting your meal pictures, maybe just posting what you eat, okay? Sharing how your day was, and also holding someone else accountable. Find someone else that's pretty proactive in the group, or find someone else that you're working with on a regular basis, and just reach out to them. Say, hey, do you want to link up for this thing? All right? Or if you need someone, I will gladly pair you with someone that is going through the same journey as you. There's a lot of awesome ladies that are gym. Okay? Second, take your meals and your habits that you're executing on already, all right, and build ideal plate portions. So 25 to 35% protein, 50% vegetables, and then up to 25% of your plate should be starches, depending on which meal it is for the day and how many meals you're having. Okay? Simple stuff, right? It's all about simplicity. And then, of course, repeat your previous weekly habits. Plan and prep your meals, when you're going to eat what, when you're going to go shopping, meditate and or give self-time daily, and exercise. Simple, right? It's not complicated, okay? So the question of the week, what I want to leave you with, how can you improve on what you've done in the past 2 weeks? What can you add in? What can you adjust? What can you simplify? What can you change because it's not working or that you can improve upon? So that wraps up tonight. I'm going to leave you with that question. I'll post the assignment. I'm ready for everyone to start taking action. So any questions you have, I'm going to record this and we'll be posting in the group. Okay. I'll go ahead and let's see if we have any questions tonight. Is it that if I'm doing 50% protein, 50% vegetables? Great question. So if we are, there's a lot of debate over if you could have too much protein. Honestly, I've seen recommendations from anywhere up to 40, 50% protein. Realistically, the body only needs at minimum zero point 0.8 grams of protein, up to 1 gram of protein. A little bit more, if you're a bodybuilder, for example. If you're eating an abundance of protein, close to 50%, I wouldn't stress about it, but realistically, I would like to see some fats fall in there for hormonal balance, just for overall energy and satiety. Okay, so that's why having some fats in there, and odds are if you're eating 50% protein and you are a meat eater, chicken, fish, beef, whatever, you're getting some fats in from saturated fat, which is okay in moderation. All right, but realistically, you want to be aiming for, like I recommend, about 25 to 35% protein and get some fats in. Okay, it will serve your health. You recommend any types of vitamins or supplements? Okay, as far as supplements go, I believe everyone should have some type of protein supplement, whether it be a whey base or if you're vegetarian or vegan, a hemp seed. What's the other type of protein? I don't recommend soy. I'll talk about that another time. But some type of protein, because honestly, it's really hard to get enough protein in our diet without going out of our way to try. We may feel like we are, but most of the time we're not getting enough. Okay. As far as vitamins and minerals, that's a whole nother topic. But realistically, a high quality multivitamin. We have one at the gym if you need one. But there's a couple different sources for that. I wouldn't stress over it if your habits aren't in place, right? Cool. So unless there's any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now. So if you do have any questions, please put them in the comments. I should have this posted at some point on Tuesday, and I'll have our new meals up, and the week 3 page will be up as well. I want to thank you all for joining me for week 3. Keep rocking, keep taking action, and follow through on your challenge for this week.